So MSI's Stage 2 bracket first round is completely over. We have our 4 winners and our 4 losers, and there really was not any surprises amongst who won and who lost. Although there are a few concerns I have, especially for this format moving forward, and we'll talk a little bit about round 2 and my predictions for the rest of the tournament. But make sure if you guys are enjoying this content that you do subscribe to the channel. I've been seeing a major increase in views over the last couple of weeks, and that does nothing but motivate me to want to continue posting as much content as I can and improving. And as you guys subscribe to the channel, it just motivates me one step further. So please do that if you do like the content. But enough of that, let's talk about this video. So let's just get the elephant out of the room for round 2 with this new format. With the exception of EU, because their qualifying requirements to come to MSI is the only region that is not 1 and 2 of the previous split, every other region in round 2 is just playing their spring split final. It's Genji versus T1, both Korea teams. It's Billy Gaiman versus JDG, both China teams. It's C9 versus Golden Guardians, both NA teams. And it's G2 versus Mad Lions, both teams that qualified for MSI from EU. This is so not good to me, in my opinion, because in round 1, there was the stipulation that no region could play each other in round 1. So in fact, it was the final matchup where C9 or where JDG did get picked up against Billy, but they moved down to play Golden Guardians. However, this is something that I think really shouldn't be allowed in the bracket until much later in the tournament, because this is round 2 and there are still round 3, round 4, and then the finals. This is just gonna look so bizarre to me. I'm not a big fan of this at all, and to me, I'm not really sure how you would fix this on the winners bracket, because on the losers bracket, all you would do is you would just take the high seed and the low seed from the different regions and they would play each other, and both regions, that's how you would handle the losers bracket. However, on the winners bracket, you don't really want to punish a team for winning, meaning put them up against a more difficult team. Example would be JDG versus Genji, because JDG just beat Golden Guardians, so why should they get forced to go up against a harder opponent where they are going to go up against a much easier opponent in Billy Gaiman? I don't really know how this is going to work. And if you look at how the bracket is formulated to work out, this could also happen in round 4 and then potentially happen in round 5. So it's very confusing to me that this is the format that they went with, because the reality of the situation is that we all know that it's Korea and China. Those are the best regions in the entire world, the best teams, those are the best players. So those 2 regions are going to most likely represent League of Legends in the finals of every international tournament. So why would it be able to be played in separate rounds against each other? To me, I would much rather see a Billy versus T1 and a JDG versus Genji before I see these 2 fight again in round 2. We just saw them all play in spring finals, and it feels much more like a domestic tournament now than it does an international tournament. But I will hold back my negativity and dislike of this format until the end of the tournament, where I will make my final review and I have time to digest how the format works. Because we still have, as of now, 10 best of 5 series left in this tournament. Now think of that. There are 8 teams in this tournament, and we have 10 more best of 5s. That is so much League of Legends, and ultimately, as a fan, as a consumer of League of Legends, what's better than watching more League of Legends? There's really nothing else out there. So I'm really excited for that aspect of the tournament. I just wish there was a more guaranteed way that we don't see region versus region, because like I said, for this next round, it's going to feel much more like domestic tournament than it will international tournament, right? No one wants to go represent North America and then have North America versus North America, right? And you can say that across the way for all the other regions as well. But on that note, let's talk about this and let's see how I think the round 2 matchups are going to go. So now let's talk about my predictions for round 2. Now, in my previous video where I talked about my predictions for round 1, I said that the lower seed teams might have a chance to win. When I talk about lower seeds having a chance to win, I'm doing just that. Some people believe that I was making the statement that the lower teams were going to win, where in fact I'm typically just trying to justify angles and reasons for how they could win. But I'm not saying they're going to win. In this scenario, I will give you straight up winners and losers of these matchups. So for round 2, the first matchup, Genji versus T1, I'm going to predict T1 to beat Gen G. Now, if you look at T1's performance over the last couple splits, domestically and international, they typically do really well early to the later end of the tournaments, but it's really the finals where they struggle. And if you look at their matchups against Gen G, yes, Gen G did beat T1 in the spring finals. However, T1 beat Gen G 3-1 in the semifinals that sent Gen G down to the lower semifinals to then go up against the finals. Now, I know that's a lot of words that I just said. However, point being, I think T1 wins this game. Bilibili versus JDG. I do expect JDG to just beat Bilibili. I think both of these teams are really good, but I think this is the closest representation of where the line is between the lower teams and the upper teams. I do think JDG is closer to T1, but I do think Bilibili Gaming is closer to that EU NA type of play. So I'm going to predict JDG to win this 3-0. And now the EU team is G2 versus Mad Lions. I talked about this in my round 1 predictions video as well, where I talked about G2 really surprising me. However, in this matchup, they did the exact opposite. Yes, they did get one win over Gen G, but they looked so out of sorts. They looked really just all over the place. And Mad Lions also got really dumpster fired by T1, and they like to get that taste out of their mouth. So I don't know really who to predict here, but if I have to predict a winner, I'm just going to say Mad Lions are going to win, but I really don't care who wins this series. Now, as an LCS fan, I am actually really happy that I get to see this exact matchup again between Golden Guardians and C9, because this is the matchup we got in the spring finals, and I do think Golden Guardians are a much better team than not only C9, but then how they were throughout playoffs. Since playoffs started, again, keep in mind, they were the 6th seed. They were the last seeded team going into the LCS playoffs. Now, in other regions, that is a lot more representative of how they play. In LCS, it's not really, because they only do best of ones. But anyway, from the minute playoffs have started, GG looked so much better, and they've gotten better every single game. So I'm expecting Golden Guardians to win, which would mean really the only upset in this entire portion of the bracket is going to be Golden Guardians beating the winners of spring split. But those are my predictions. Comment down below what you guys think your predictions are. Like I said, don't forget to subscribe if you enjoy the content.